Islam, 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 Moorish America. Want to rise first and give all praises to the great God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, our national flag, divine constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are a living manifestation and personification of everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. Islam, Islam, Islamism, without the schisms. This is a grand droid that we want to bring on the manifest Moorish kin, and it's very key that we go into this special measure because it's about time we bring clarity to an special droid. Many of our people have been pushing the narrative that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a Mason and he was a Shriner and so forth and so on. And we are going to set this measure out tonight to let you know exactly what it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought and what it was that he taught and why it is ours, and why it is not to be confused with anything else that someone else brought. You see, and we're going to make it plain tonight. So for those who attend and come in, all is well. For those who see this measure later, all is well. Because I'm not looking for a whole bunch of views, and I'm just basically making it rain right now. And so whoever this truth fall upon, then it was meant for you to receive. And basically, going into this special droid, my subject title will most definitely be one that take us into a grand essence. If you go into the grand aspect of the measure, as you see, it's Noble Drew Ali, the Egyptian Adept, versus the N.B.C, Egyptian Shriner. Signs and symbols are for conscious minds. Islam, Brother Marcus Bey. Gratitude, Grand Man. So, what do we mean when we say it's Noble Drew Ali, the Egyptian Adept, versus the N.B.C Egyptian Shriner? And signs and symbols are for conscious mind, because that's the key. Based upon the signs and symbols that we will demonstrate here tonight, you will know exactly what it was Prophet Noble Drew Ali was demonstrating and what he was not demonstrating. And we're going to also point out, why there's so much confusion surrounding this subject matter. So by the time we get through, hopefully somebody will have some understanding, whoever this was meant for. This is not to bash, those who are part of these particular organizations. That's what they do. That's what they do. Our goal is to let it be known what Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought and what he taught and who he is and who he is not, despite the rumors. The general opinions of men would never outweigh the truth. So from that aspect, let us proceed. I want to start from in a special measure of drawing on understanding the requirements for one to be a part and partial of these different organizations. Some say Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a Pythian knight. Some say Prophet Noble Drew Ali was an odd fellow. And even though these are appended bodies or whatever, these are also not Masonic organizations. It's a lot of Masons that's odd fellows and a lot of Masons that are Pythian knights. But these are not Masonic organizations as far as when you deal with the 3 degrees of Masonry, so to speak. These are other degrees and bodies outside of Masonry in and of itself. Now that's not to justify a particular measure. We just letting you know so that you have some clarity in regards to dealing with that as well. And the same is to be said also about the shrine. You know, the shrine is also a body outside of Masonry, you know, though you have certain affiliations or whatever. You know, so all of the rumors that we have, but no one has ever been able to come forth with solid proof to prove that Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself had been a part of any lodge, any one of these particular organizations. You know, the confusion comes in as to him being surrounded by a lot of people who were part and partial of these different organizations, and this is why he is often basically confused as being a part of them. Well, we know that prophets are sent to save and free nations. You see, this is the duty of a prophet. You know, also, as a matter of fact, you know, most chambers of initiation are based upon the coming of a particular prophet, so to speak, meaning one came on the manifest, and then they would call certain lodges or certain portions in the rituals in relation to dealing with a particular man, you know, a prophet or a saint or whatever the case may be. For example, you have those who in the Masonic order would say, well, one is from the Holy Lodge of St. John in Jerusalem, in reference to John. You see, or like in the nation of Islam, you know, you have demonstrations that they have in their degrees of understanding that would make you feel as if they were a part and parcel of those demonstrations. Also, and that's some of the stuff we're going to touch on, Brother Marcus Bay. You're right. Him wearing the fez, they automatically thought that the prophet was supposed to be in a shrine or something. We're going to get on that. That's one of our main measures tonight. So, yeah, but, you know, you like we say, Yehoshua, the brother Nazarite, you know, different aspects or whatever. John the Harbinger. You know, in all actuality, these are different references that are referring to stations, so forth and so on. And oftentimes when you get these different orders that come on the manifest, even in Sufism, the order of Sufism is often named after its founder. You know, if his name was Shadili or something like that, then the order would be the Shadilia order. You know, if it was Ahmad, then it would be the Ahmadiyya order. And we can go on and on and on and on about this special drawing. You see, and there might be some rite that comes behind that of initiation along the line of dealing with self-mastery. You know, in Sufism, these are serious initiations, though, most of the time, when you deal with this. And actually, this is where the Shriners got their start from. The Templars also ran into some of these Sufi adepts during the time of the Crusades. But that's neither here nor there. You know, you have to study the Druze' history and the Ismailis and the Batashki. And then you'll get some understanding in those areas. I'm not trying to run all that history down right now. I'm strictly talking about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You know, as he never wore a Masonic ring, there is no attendance record, and there have been Masons, even of the Phylaxis Society, who went through all the rolls that they could find and didn't find his name upon the rolls. He didn't attend any of these chapters of Prince Hall or Negro Masonic Lodge. Noble Drew Ali, basically, you have to understand how old he was when he left the United States. So when you get into this special drawing and comprehend this, this is a man that had been made to know who the great God Allah was and become fully conscious of metaphysics, of the ancient Comedian mystery system, you know, becoming a Muslim, you know, one who basically at the age of 27 had freshly returned from the holy city of Mecca as an Egyptian adept master. You see, but none can verify, neither before or after that time that the prophet was, pardon partial of this demonstration, he left in 1902, right? He went to Egypt at the age of 16. So we know at this age he was not old enough to join any fraternal order or secret society. So when he came back around the age 26, 27, as an Egyptian adept master and Muslim of the ancient order of Islamism, he would never stoop to a level of basically giving his will to a worshipful master. It's because he was already an adept. And anybody who know or ever met a Mason that's really learned, most of them would tell you, especially if you are dealing with these special things and you already have Islamism, they will ask you, man, why are you even going through that special demonstration? This is basically nothing. You already got the truth. This is what most of the Shriners that have some understanding will say to one who is trying to take a journey, especially being a Muslim. Like, what you doing up in here, Yehoshua? You already got the wisdom of the the wisdom of the mastermind. What are you seeking here? So 1912 was around the time the prophet fully unfolded, through the teachings of the ancient Comedian mystery system, Islamism. And this was at this time that he received the fullest aspect of his high name. That high name being El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali. Now, many have a problem with this because they don't understand that his name is a representation of his journey. El Hajj meaning he took Hajj or made Hajj. Sharif, which was given to him by Ibn Saud of Saudi Arabia, who is actually depicted in our Moorish Holy Quran, Circle 7. But Sharif in itself means noble. Abdul simply means servant. And this is actually the name Abdul that also was the name that those in Saudi Arabia, pretty much had. Every Muslim, for the fact of the matter, is really an Abdul, a servant of the great God Allah. And the Ali portion, was received, in his journey through the holy city of Fez in Morocco, just visiting that special area on his way back from the east. Even the name Sharif and Ali, dealing with the Sharifian dynasty and the Aliyite dynasties, this is Moroccan blood, right? When you deal with that special aspect, not the modern day Morocco, but the ancient Morocco, which are the Moorish, the Moabites. So when he came forth, his name was a representation of his journey. And the last aspect, Ali, meaning that he would be the most high, most exalted among his people. How could he raise you from a shallow grave of assumable jurisdiction if he was still in the grave with you? This is the key. This is the key. So now, if he was given this high name of Sharif El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali with the most benevolent degree, the greatest school on earth could bestow upon any man as a prophet, because often we say his prophethood came as he unfolded. As man unfolds, God unfolds. Prophet, angel, and Muslim has a different meaning to those who understand adept science, coming from the Moorish perspectives. A prophet does not mean the same thing to an adept and a Muslim that it means to one who is following the European thought pattern. And nor do the word Muslim and angel, mean the same thing either, as we stated. So all of this have to do with one bearing the name of the faithful in essence. But Noble Drew Ali went into the holy city of Mecca and was accepted by the Sultan Saud, right? And this is key. We want to keep that in mind. He was meeting sultans at this time, because at this time the sultans were still on the manifest. This is before the kingdom of Morocco manifested to the extent that it is now, having kings and so forth and so on. So every ruler of the East that he met, they bore that name Sultan. Keep this in mind, because we're going to come back to it later. You see? And he gave history, in regards to dealing with where we come from and how these secrets have been held back. The keys to civilization we were being given, they were held back by the Muslims in the East until the time appointed. So with this sacred name, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, why would he then, after being one who circumnavigated, from the East and back to the West and back to the East again and so forth and so on, if you go into the language being used, he didn't join a lodge. There was no need for him to join a lodge. I mean, what height would he be seeking at this special time if he was already Ali, the Most High? So neither within Africa, Arabia, Morocco, or India, he didn't affiliate in lodges. But he did rotate with the Silent Brotherhood, which is still present this very day. They often come forth when it's time to initiate one during a time period of enlightenment, and then they withdraw themselves and go back into seclusion after the job has been demonstrated. So by the time he again returned here at the age of 27 with this high name, it was not necessary for him to be initiated into anyone's lodge. He could actually open up, a secret society if that's what he chose to demonstrate. But his measure was to bring his people to plain truth. Remember, he was surrounded by Masons, so he could have easily begun to demonstrate Masonry along with them. Dr. Suleiman, who came back from Cairo, which a lot of people have a misunderstanding about, he was not the founder of the original Canaanite temple. He was a co-founder. And we talk about this all the time. And I'm finna show you in a minute what we mean by this, because as I stated before, I'm one of the reasons that a lot of the information on Suleiman began to surface. It was in the archives or whatever, but no one had already brought it forth at this particular time. People were holding it back because they wanted to make money off of the information. So I freely put it out there to give our people the truth. So knowing that the prophet, was pure in his thought, his ways, his acts, and his deeds, you would come into a grand understanding as to why he began to demonstrate as he did and why he had to move alone. Islam, Sister Malika Shamsuddin Bey. Gratitude, Goddess and Queen. So I want to go through a couple of matters, and I have some pictorial expressions up here because we're going to take you down through there and back up through there, and we're going to let you know what it is we demonstrate. So these are N.B.C. Masons. And I want you to take a good look at the attire they have on, because a lot of people like to confuse the attire that they have on with the attire that the prophet have on. And one of the main reasons they got sashes on, right? If you notice, most of them are wearing them to the right. You know, the prophet wearing him to the east. Then is going toward the west right there, right? But that's neither here nor there. So the sash, what is the science behind it? You know, there's a deep science behind a sash, especially when it comes to the east, when they demonstrated it. These sashes did not come into existence as a result of Western Freemasonry. They were only mocking or mimicking a thing of the past. And we're going to go into where they got this from. So none of this is similar to what the prophet has on at all. You don't see any of this on the prophet's sash. You don't see that type of headdress. You've never seen the prophet wear that type of headdress. You see? But that's what their attire looked like, right? Here, I'm going to try to blow that up a little bit without distorting the image. Here you see the Europeans. Look at the attire that they have on. These are costumes. The prophet was not demonstrating in costumes. He was demonstrating in the royal dress of the sultans or the sultan princes. You see, none of this looks anything like what the prophet had on. You see, just because you put on something in the likeness of the Orient, don't make it the Orient. And here, all the European was doing is imitating our people. And you give him the credit of owning this when he's just trying to imitate our people. And we're going to show you how far that the European go with that too in a little bit. Okay, here are some more N.B.C. Shriners here. Many have seen this one already. It's actually some of the ones that were part of the temple that Suleiman had set up, because he set up what they call the Mecca Medina Shriners. And he was going back and forth with one known by the name of Caesar R. Blake. I have a picture of him, but it's not need for me to go and pulling that up in this special area. He's dressed pretty much just like they are. He was from North Carolina. And he fought against Suleiman because he didn't want to accept what Suleiman called Mohammedan Masonry. So, yeah, this is basically how they demonstrate. Now, many confuse, you know, the headdress that the Shriners have on with the headdress of the Moors. The only similarity to it is that they are fezzes. But when you have marking on the front, the prophet did not mark his fez. And if he was a part of that particular type of organization, he wouldn't have had a problem with the Moors marking their fez. He wouldn't have told the Moors not to mark their fez, to be the plain truth, like he himself was the truth. Now, there are hadiths that say he took their fez off one of the Cook Bay brothers' heads, par himself. There's another, as we know, that he is said to have taken it, a fez off of the Prince of Peace head that was marked. You know, and these were a part of different Masonic orders and shrines prior to coming into the prophet's teaching. A lot of people around the prophet, he always was surrounded by Shriners and Masons in some way, from the time he was in Newark, New Jersey, all the way back over into Chicago. You see, so there's no secret in regards to dealing with that aspect. So, you know, many of our people ought to be ashamed of themselves, though, because they just basically saying the prophet is guilty by association, when his works and his teachings tell you that he wasn't demonstrating in that special way. He said that he came to take the cover off all secret organizations. Now, you can't be a Shriner and a Mason and you come forth to be an exposer of, you know, things that they consider secret. But an adept knows the difference between a thing that is considered secret and that which is sacred. An adept understands, you know, that he has come forth to be a revealer of the light. If you look up the word Hierophant, the word Hierophant alludes to one being a revealer of the light. You see? Like it says in the Piscean records, that in which you hear in secret you proclaim from housetops, so to speak. In other words, when you receive that sacred truth, you give it to the people. The keys of civilization, he released them to the Moors and told them to save themselves. Right? We're not going to be dogmatic and overly religious with you on this special drawing. We just point certain measures out so that you will have clarity and understanding when it comes to this special matter. So, now that we covered that special aspect, let us keep going on. Here's some more N.B.C. Shriners. I'm trying to get that one to stretch, but it's not expanding. It's pretty small. And this is one of the main ones you'll see when those who are trying to attack the prophet and Moors who would like to try to make the prophet a Mason or a Shriner, they pull this up. None of this attire is similar to what the prophet have, other than the fact they got a fez on it, and the prophet's fez is again are not marked. As far as dealing with all this that you see here, all they were doing is the same thing the European was doing. Mimicking the people of the past. Not that they honored the attire that they had on or the dress, and they got different attire on up here. You see? So, nevertheless, that is not enough to make the prophet a Shriner. But we're going to let you know where the prophet got his attire from. And it's going to be exactly what he had on. You don't see what the prophet had on when he was sitting in that chair, in his throne of power. None of what we just showed you that the Shriners have on European or N.B.C., even in the Masonic demonstration, none of it looked anything like the prophet has on. You see? So, now that has been stated, let us move on. We want to get into some of the signs and symbols that were demonstrated by the prophet. And since we mentioned the prophet, he's so popular now, all we got to do is type his name up and every image that you want is coming up. And this is just to give you a picture, which you're already familiar with the prophet's image or whatever, so I really don't have to do this, but I really don't have to do this. You already know how the prophet looked, so you see it. That don't look like nothing that you seen the Masons and the Shriners with on. As a matter of fact, what the prophet has on looks more regal. You see, it doesn't look half cocked and thrown together, so to speak. It looks is very very, very regal. The prophet took regality to a whole nother level. No one can deny that. That's why that's one of the most iconic photos that you ever seen of him. And as a matter of fact, honors to the chairman for making this photo colored, because back during the time when he came into the movement in '69, they were only black and white photos of our holy prophet. Honors to Dr. Akin Pert M. Herutu Takamin Bey, a.k.a. Pleasant Bay, Elihu Pleasant Bay, for making it possible that we see a colored photo of our holy prophet. So, going back to the prophet, again though, signs and symbols are for the conscious mind. Now, many would like to say when they see the prophet, and we're going to go back to some of these pictures over here real quick. When he is standing here, let us open up. Okay. And we just going in random pages or whatever the case may be. But you see the prophet standing here, and he has his hands raised. They think that this is Masonic. This is a grand Helen sign of distress that he's demonstrating here. And so forth and so on. Yeah, so we know the prophet was not one that was in distress, but he was actually demonstrating the ancient science of the ancestors. And that's what you see right here. You see? This is in ancient Kemet. This was before there was a Masonic order or a Shriners organization ever on the manifest. So I think you give the European too much credit. But even they, or any honest Mason or Shriner, let you know that they took the science from here. So the prophet took you back to the source. While everybody else was trying to deal with the knockoff version and imitate, and represent our nation in a symbolic way, our prophet was really living it. Here's another expression of the same pose. And we're going to get into the science of it in a minute. You see the sister here demonstrating the same pose, right? Hands exalted. Here's an actual symbol of the hands being exalted. You see it surrounded by all types of the symbols and so forth and so on. This is known as the Ka. That's K-A, Ka symbol. We're going to go into a grand drawing in a minute, though, in regards to dealing with Ka. This is known as Kansu, also La, actually where they get the name Allah from. Allah, right? Notice the headdress here. Often when you would see those hands raised, they would be symbolic to this crescent that's holding the sun here. And this represented divine sovereignty and universal balance. You see? So this special headdress was not only a headdress as well for the man, but it was also a headdress that was donned by the females, the goddesses and queens. Here's another expression of Kansu. Allah or Illah, Yah, even. These are different forms, the Heru version, we can go into many different aspects of it. But you see the headdress that is there. It's key that you understand this. Notice that this is a crescent, but the crescent is an upright crescent. Anytime you see a crescent with the points coming down, that is an inverted crescent. So the ancient ones demonstrated, pretty much along the lines of the upright crescent. And we can go on and on and on into that special area, but we ain't going to take up too much time. Here's the symbol again. Notice it has the star in it. There's your upright symbol. These are actually in the form of a horn, because the horn was a symbol of the crescent as well. This is nothing new. You see a lot of the Moors in some of their temples, they have the horns on their pulpit. But do they really know the science behind that? Mostly a lot of the resurrection Moors demonstrate that, coming from the Dingle portion and so forth and so on. You will see them with that particular demonstration like that. So what is the symbol of those horns? What do they represent? We know it deals with vigor, strength, power, endurance, and so forth and so on. This is a pylon expression of the crescent with the star in the center. The star is closed indeed, but this is just a pylon, that was demonstrated, and taken from someplace in Egypt, so to speak. That's one of them. Now, we see all of this and understand what it is. You can also see, again, those horns right here. That's the symbol of Ka. That's the symbol of that same crescent as well, if you know Kemetically what it represents. It has to do with the meiotic balance as well. It has to do with one bringing order, in the midst of a chaotic people, and then they took it and they used it in the United States court. All rise. When you really don't know that, that's basically a situation where you find yourself, at the behest of your most worshipful master, the European that's basically there. That's what he really trying to tell you. So let us go on a little further. I have more to follow up with. That was another picture, actually, of European Shriners, too. You see, they attire here ain't got nothing to do with what our prophet was demonstrating. I wanted to come right here. It's a lot of symbolism, a lot of this stuff right here on my page. This is the Khedive, if it will open up. Well, you see me pointing to it. This is the Khedive. Oh, there it go, right there. This is the Khedive, Ishmael, the one whom you would often see in the records of the Shriners. They say they trace their rituals back to. Now, the reason why they say they trace their rituals back to this particular one who came through the Muhammad Ali dynasty, the same lineage that Master Farad Muhammad actually came from, the Egyptian Ottoman, a Turkish Egyptian Ottoman bloodline, so to speak, because Muhammad Ali was Ottoman. He left from there and went into Egypt and basically took hold of the particular place. And this is actually an expression of Muhammad Ali here. You see, that's a depiction of him there. Look at the dress that he have on. Now see, this is where the Shriners got their attire from. You see? This is where the Shriners and the Masons got their attire from. This is who they were trying to mimic, and I'm going to show you why they adopted it from these particular ones. Same stuff here. But where did they get it from? The Ottomans. Who do you think it was that established the Ottoman Empire? It was the Moors that established the Ottoman Empire. The ancient Moors. They also have an Egyptian bloodline anyway. We'll get into that on another measure, though. Look at this. Same thing here. Notice his fez is not necessarily marked. It's really broached. That means he have brooches on it. He have brooches all over his uniform right here. And medals. But, they did that in Turkey. You see? So, all of these different form, the uniforms and the dress that you see the Shriners demonstrating with, they came from the Moors. And I can go through a line of pictures in my, in my archives, but that's not necessary right now. That's really the basic Shriners attire there. You see he got his little cape on, but even all that right there still go back to the Ottoman Empire. So most of these were Muslims at one particular time or another. This is how they dressed. This was the way they demonstrated. You see? Now these men here, just to speak on a few of them, they were actually mercenaries in his army. So these were, some of them were from the United States, some of them was French. That's another U.S. soldier that was a mercenary in Egypt under the Khedive Ismail. They were mercenaries. All of these ones here. See them dressed in the garbs of those of, Egypt. There, he's also one. Now, believe it or not, these men that I just showed you, unbeknownst to many, these were actually the original Shriners before the 13 that the Europeans speak of. These were the ones that basically, as mercenaries, fought in the army. And William Fleming, who had said to observe, these Shriners, he didn't know that's who they was. Basically, he thought these were Arabs undergoing a ritual, but really it was them basically being initiated, so to speak. And this is why they say they trace themselves back to the Khedive and Ismail. This is why, the Shriners have that significant history that's attached to them and so forth and so on. Because they had to basically swear an oath on the Quran and so forth and so on. So everything, when you get into these degrees of Masonry and Shrinism, they really have to do with historical accounts that's basically being a historical account supposed to be preserved, so to speak. And they try to preserve it through these different rituals, that have to do with events that they feel were pivotal in making America the nation of what it is, so to speak. You see, that's what it really all boiled down to at the end of the day. A playwright, so to speak. So these five, came up under this special one, and there were more. If you go and do the research, all you got to do is look up the Egyptian mercenaries that were from the United States and France, and you will see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. See, we taking the cover of all secret organizations. This is just another picture here of another one of the brothers of the Ottoman Empire. And notice he has the little cape on that a lot of the resurrection Moors like to have on them. All that right there really go back to the Ottoman Empire. You see? So, let us keep moving. Suleiman. Notice on his name, and I'm the one that first ever posted this particular picture when everybody had the blurry picture of Suleiman. I presented this one to social media via Facebook, and you see he is referred to here, Suleiman, as a high Egyptian Mason. See, Dr. Abdul Ahmed Suleiman, who questions the legitimacy of Western Shriners. So this was his whole agenda. He was saying that the Shriners of the West were bogus, and the N.B.C. Masons and Shriners were bogus as well, and they wasn't going to be really regular or right unless they came up under him of what he called Mohammedan Masonry. So this was his whole agenda. His agenda was never to build the Canaanite temple. All of the information that you have in reference to Suleiman, he was pushing Shrinism. I have all the articles. I put a lot of them out there. Honors to the brother Alim Bey for letting you know that he came through and he received some of those articles from myself. But dealing with these special articles, you will see that Marcus Garvey and Deuce Muhammad Ali, Effendi Muhammad Ali, and a few more, Arthur Scomborg, who has the Scomborg Library in New York, who was also a high Mason, 96 right. Deuce Muhammad Ali was said to be 96 right. Marcus Garvey, we know, was a Mason, of the African Lodge. So, this we know. But the Prophet, you can't find those documents up there. We see the picture with Garvey at John E. Bruce funeral. And if you didn't know who John E. Bruce was a part of the Masonic order as well. So these Suleiman were having great meetings with. Matter of fact, at this great meeting, which you can find on MoorishAmericanGovernment.land, you will see Garvey there, you will see W.B. Du Bois, pretty much all of them, Booker T. Washington, in one room at one time, at this meeting. of this high Egyptian mason, so to speak, or whatever. So, let me go on. This is key right here. See, this is the ace in the hole that a lot of y'all don't know about right here. For those who say that Suleiman taught the prophet, notice what it says here. After Negro Shriners, right? High priest of Mecca would put him in the right light. He's close to the great prophet. Now, I want you to answer, well, ask yourself the question. You know, who is the great prophet that Suleiman was close to? It was only one proclaiming to be a prophet that Suleiman had been affiliated with, and that's Prophet Noble Ali. So if he was close to the great prophet, then that means that he had to be in the midst of the prophet, and that the prophet's greatness was acknowledged during that special time. But nevertheless, he was still trying to offer his Shrinism, Mohammedan Masonry. You know, they even asked him, well, if you a Mohammedan Mason, then why do you have Mecca Road in English on your headdress? They was calling Suleiman out. But this one is dealing with him having a run-in with Caesar R. Blake, you know, who was a part of the John G. Jones Shriners. John G. Jones is the brother that you see Farrakhan holding up in the picture when he has on the Masonic regalia. The 96 degree, 96 right. So that brings us here to let you know exactly where the prophet's attire comes from. If you notice here, you see the sash he has on, and he styled it in his own way. He has M.A. up there, which we know, you know, has to do with Moorish Adept, Moorish American, however you see it. He has the star over his shoulder, and we know most definitely, you know, when the prophet demonstrate that signs there, his scimitar ain't far behind. Allah is right here, and the seven over Allah is right there. And then you see the crescent. But notice the crescent that is demonstrated here, though it is covered up a little bit, you can tell that this is a upright crescent. It's not the one that's just faced one way, it's upright. He has Islam down here on the bottom of this special sash. The sash is nothing more than a demonstration by which one separates the important chakras, this one, the Ajna chakra, and the crown chakra. You see, these two represent cherubim and seraphim. These two represent intuition and telepathy. You see, anything else down here, you got it under control. This is really the line uniting divinity and matter. That's what the sash really represents. All the patterns in it is symbolic to that higher power. When he say he mended the broken wires and connected them to the higher power, that's what that really symbolized, power. That's what that regality represents. Then you see he has the ostrich feather here. You see? He has the sundial brooch, which they actually have carved on certain walls. And he has the pagri. You know, it's a turban basically, but we see a lot of the Moors wearing them now since the chairman has come forth to demonstrate in that attire again. So you see the prophet sitting here. This dress, he has his waist sash on as well. Now look over here. Notice you see the same demonstration of ostrich feather. You see the headdress, the feathers coming out of the headdress like the prophet. You notice the sash around the body of this special one. It has designs and patterns on it as well, and they white clad. Every last one of them that has a headdress on has a feather coming out of the front of it. Every last one of them. And this is coming from the kingdom of Nubia, the Cushites, basically. So the prophet's attire that you see now, and a lot of people say, well, this look like some attire from India. Well, who do you think the people of India are? You had two dynasties. You had the Middle Kushite dynasty and you had the Indus Kushite dynasty. So it's not strange that they took that attire into that special region. They just took more, we would say, care in time, so to speak, into preserving it, and we'll say continuing to develop the garb, which is why you see it as the prophet have on right now. That garb is timeless. You can put this garb the prophet got on right now in any generation, even one after this right here, and he'll still look on time. It won't look, even though it's an ancient demonstration, he'll still be on time. Look at this. If you can't see that right there, then you are blind as I don't know what. And it ain't meant for you to see. Either that or you just in denial. Now, here's another measure being demonstrated. Same headdress. That's the sash coming down again. He actually has on what is known as the shinty or the fustanella. A lot of people like to call it an apron and so forth and so on masonically. But yep, they got that from our people too. So it should be plain and clear as to where the prophet's attire came from. Oh, we gonna make it plain. There go you another Shriner right there, Medina Shriner. He even got his babies with little fezzes on and in the little attire. But that and that is two different things. You can't confuse them. I don't even see how you can mix them up. Even down to the sash. You cannot confuse the two. Question is, who did it first? Did they do it first? Or did they do it first? Now, it should be obvious from this special aspect as to what the prophet is demonstrating. So we now have traced his attire back to Cush, the ancient Cushites. And I can go deeper into that right there, but viewing the lack of the time, we ain't going to worry about that right now. Because those who meant to get it, they going to get it anyway. But let us go a little further. Because you have a lot of people who were recently talking about the jewel that they seen me put out there, the Hierophant jewel. And one brother responded, Masonic. Oh, how deluded one is from the truth. First and foremost, the five-pointed star is indigenous to ancient Kemet. You see it right here. Notice this star, and this is Amen. You know Amen-Ra, where they get the word Amen from. So this star is actually symbolic to a seed here being planted and then a flag sprouting up, so to speak. So you can see the principles of harmony, truth, balance, right, order, and justice that became love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is why we say our flag is over 10,000 or 50,000 or even 100,000 years old, because these are attributes of the great God Allah that existed long before man existed. You see? So who had the symbol first? Did the Shriners exist back during this time when this five-pointed star was being demonstrated? So who really copycat? Oh, we're going to get a little deeper now. And I wish this right here would actually stretch out, but this is dealing with the Kafesh. You can still see it a little bit. The Kafesh is known as the scimitar. It's often depicted in its crude state as an ox leg, you know, from whence the word axe actually derives from. So this word axe and ox, you get a grand drawing off of it, because you go back to also when it said in some translations that Moses had slew an Egyptian with the leg of an ox, right? And it was really symbolically talking about the scimitar, because the Kafesh is being depicted by the leg of an ox because of its shape. And if you look at the shape of the ox leg, and then I bring you here to the Egyptian Kafesh. Let me see. I just type it in real quick. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you look at that leg of that ox and you can see what a shape and the similarity comes in at. You can also see how that this evolved out of the axe. So the axe being the first stage, and then it came to this stage, and this stage gave birth to the scimitar as you know it. But this was the original curve blade that the ancient Egyptians demonstrated with the Kafesh, you know, which was always again depicted in the glyphs, the hieroglyphs, with the leg of an ox, which you can see down here. Notice the leg of the ox is over a star. So if you have a scimitar over a star in the hieroglyphics in ancient Kemet, then when you see the scimitar over the star in the flag of the Moorish American government, you see the Comedian origins of this special demonstration. Now this is adept science, so I don't expect babies to get a drawing off of this here. You know, when you're old enough to eat a full-grown meal, if you don't understand it, you know, then all is well. Here's a measure. It says in the course of the history of the Egyptian language, Hafesh, basically HPS, which hieroglyphic writing is saying use the word in the pyramid text shows to have been the foreleg of a bull. They use the term bull here, right? Came to mean not only the constellation of the Great Bear, but also strong arm. You often hear about people saying the arm of Allah is not weakened, symbolic to justice, a scimitar. So this strong arm symbolic to strength. There you go, even the scimitar. And they said also Set or Sutek, he used the scimitar in the battle against the demons of disease. You see? So this scimitar was used to cut away ungainly things, ungainly parts. It's from the family of the axe. You can cut away the disease of your heart, the disease of your mind with it. So this is the symbolism. It doesn't represent secrecy to us. It represents sacredness. Now, I wish I can get into that one. This one dealing with the Egyptian book of the hidden chambers. You get a chance, you can go to it. I actually could go and pull it up, but I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. But what they have in their hands is actually the five-pointed star, and then these up front have the scimitar in their hand. But this is a scene depicted of the celestials moving throughout the celestial realm, but they have the scimitar and the star in their possession. This is a Kemetic symbol. Again, it is not in Western Freemasonic symbol. Matter of fact, because I want you to see it. I don't want you to think I'm pulling your leg. I'm going to go through here just to pull this image out to show you. Because I know a lot of y'all from the show mistake. And y'all ain't going to believe it until you see it. So, let me see, can I find it? It should be up here. Let me see, not there. And I've been putting this stuff out here for years. So I'm just going through the archives that I already put out here. I think I'm getting close to it. Let me see. Go a little further. Okay, that's dealing with the scimitar again now. There we go, right there. That's what we're looking for. And I want you to see it. We ain't demonstrating no sham science over here. Okay, there you go. You see them stars right there in their hand? And they in the celestial realm. And notice Osar is right here with them. Anubis, Heru, and then Amen, the four. You always hear them talking about the four standing before the gateways and so forth and so on. These are the celestials. Stars here, scimitars here. This is ancient Comedian demonstration. And that's why we demonstrated with the celestial origins of the scimitar and star. When I broke this down about the sage N.B.C, he stated the wheel of time has turned once more, and the race is on a high plane of thought, and the garments that our fathers wore have given out. The cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, and have placed it in our hands, and we must make for men new garbs. And that's why you see the Moorish American flag in the Moorish American government as it is, with a scimitar and a star in it. Notice at the root of the word cherubim, you see the word Heru. Heru. Who is Heru? Heru is synonymous with the Hierophant, or Hierophant. But we'll get back to that later. That's a whole nother measure. That's more adept science. But yeah, so everything we have comes straight from Kemet. You see, not only the fact that our prophet brought it back, but this came from our ancestors. We're not demonstrating in the science of being a Shriner or trying to imitate a Shriner. We have our own science. Here's another measure, and I often go back to this one to show you these are different Islamic nations that have the scimitar and the star in their flags and in their banners. You take a look at them. And that said the scimitar is indigenous to Islamism. And they received the scimitar from the angel Jibril as it was passed from him to Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and Muhammad ibn Abdullah passed it to Ali. You know, they call it the Zulfikar. You know, the Zulfikar was the very first symbol used in the flag of Morocco. That's a Moroccan flag right there. That's a flag of the Moors. Or actually a coat of arms or shields. But notice it got the scimitar above it. Okay, so a lot of these things and nations been around way before the Shriners come on to manifest. So ask them who their daddy is. Oh, we're going to teach you today. We're going to give you a grand drawing. We're going to make it plain for you. We want you to know what we demonstrating and what the prophet brought. I want to go back here because I see my other images. It's not expanding again. So I'm going to go here and show it to you. The other image that I'm trying to pull up is actually already here. Let me see, where is it? It's just years and years of research in regards to dealing with this special measure. So quote us right when you quote Mag and where it came from. The prophet was the Egyptian Adept. We didn't say that. That's what he said, right? Here's another measure on a lesson when I really got a grand unfoldment on the flag. You see, now carved in stone, that same image I showed to you earlier with the 5-pointed star and then the flag coming up. You see this being depicted here, right? Now notice the head of man here, right? But notice here, you see the God-man planting the banner. And I actually put that image on the banner, scimitar and star. You know, which goes back to Resh, as they would say, right? And if you know anything about Resh, what they like to call Hebrew language, look, it represents the symbol of the head in Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. This is the symbol of Resh in the alphabetical form. You see? So that's the ancient form, that's the modern form. Ancient form is pictorial, modern form look like that. So if you see the name Yahweh drawn, this would represent the head portion, right? Symbol, not Resh, but a symbol like this of the yard being symbol to it. So nevertheless, you know, the scimitar is within the head of man and the stars within the heart of man. That's my breakdown of it. Now, if you place a scimitar in the head of man, which represent consciousness, and the star being within the heart of man, which represents consciousness, as well. Both of these represent the seat of consciousness. The scimitar above the star is a representation of man himself, i.e. this symbol right here. In the head of man, in the heart of man. Nearest place you can meet the great God Allah. You see? So you see Resh, More-ish, Moresh, Moorish, right? Ish to us don't mean trying to be, being a fixing to be, and all this other stuff that you hear a lot of these Moors talking. Ish is actually the name of the first God man. So when we say more-ish, we are saying that man is more God than he is a mere man. See? That's why I say the first flag of man is as old as the great God himself. For it was man himself as flesh divine. Seventh of the time right there. Moorish God man. Remember that now. The scimitar is within the head of man. And the stars within the heart of man. You got that? Write it down. Let me keep moving so I can wrap this up. I want you to quote us right. Now, this is how the Kafesh eventually began to evolve into the scimitar after it came out of the original form I showed you. You know, that shape of that ox leg, and then as crooked as it was, you see it now curving up. You know, it doesn't have a necessary point right here, but this was how they demonstrated with it. And it probably was sharp as I don't know what. You know, that's a point, but it ain't, you know, that point where it curves off at this particular juncture here. You know, that came in the more modern times. So now that we got on that special drawing, that too came from our ancestors. We can check that off. Now we're talking about this headdress. You see it has the tassel holder here on it. This is straight fez action right here. Coming from the ancient Akkadians or the Sumerians. Look at this, and you know it's Moabite. All you got to do is look at the hair. That is a fez all day long. Now the Shriners didn't exist when this was being demonstrated. So when you seen the Ottomans, you know, and the Moors who picked this special demonstration up, you know, and they call it the Tarbush, and they give it all types of names. But it's our ancient headdress. And we can go into comedian monuments as well and demonstrate it, but it ain't necessary now. You know, we'll just utilize this special drawing for one. I'm pretty sure you've seen many of them. And that brings us here, where you see the European, you know, now trying to hijack something because you don't want to take what belongs to you. They got Mecca on this one, Allah on that one, Islam on that one, Kaaba on that one, Ali on that one, Muhammad on that one, Medina on that one, Egyptian on that one, Muslim on that one, Al-Quran on that one. And on this particular Shriner's jewel that they have here with this inverted crescent, which is really not a crescent, it's bangle claws, a symbol of Victoria's Secret, the great white brotherhood. You see, big game hunters. You know, that's basically what they did. They took your headdress and they glowed over the kill. We conquered Mecca. You know, we even conquered their God. At least that's what they think now. You know, we conquered Islam, we conquered Ali, we conquered the Kaaba, we conquered Muhammad, we conquered Medina, Egyptians, we conquered Muslim, Al-Quran. It ain't nowhere that we ain't set up an embassy, a consulate, a fortress, so to speak. It all belonged to us. That's what the European mean. For those of you who think that you are Shriners. You know, so they are really making a mockery and gloating over the kill. And you might have a few European that might take it a little more serious and say, you know, if you run into one, it's rare, but you might run into one that got a mindset like Tim Wise or Rick Smith, and they demonstrating in that area, and they'll let you know Yeah, we know you the truth. We know you God. You got some of them that'll tell you that. But it ain't a common thing. They better not let nobody else hear them say it, because they will be beheaded ASAP. So the crown expression of their jewel is that it is an inverted crescent. And you see the inverted star there. That star actually say Allah on it. Now, why would you put the head here, the arms here, the arm there, and the leg there? You got Allah upside down. It's strange that, for some reason, in these particular orders, they like to invert the star. And when you deal with inverting the star, it takes on a very different meaning than the star when it is upright. But that's a whole nother measure. And we see some upright stars here, but they still got boundaries on them. They have been conquered here. We making it plain too. We're going to separate the wheat from the chaff on this demonstration. We're going to give you some real education if you want it. So this is where they actually derived that symbol from. This is another inscription on the wall in ancient Kemet. You see the crescent, you see the star there. So ain't nothing new under the sun. Where they got it from? Who they daddy? Then you see here's a Klansman. He has the same crescent, but his is inverted, just like the one we was talking about earlier. We're going to give you a close-up of it, though. Because this is actually the same thing, but this is the Kappa, demonstration. The European, it's that sorority demonstration here, but same thing with that inverted star and the crescent inverted. This is how they demonstrate. That's their trademark, right? So there's another image of the scimitar, really what it means, dealing with the science. If you go into the science right down there at the bottom, and I talked about this, that's what's called the scimitar sacrum. This is where the Kundalini energy is said to be harnessed at. And you see a serpent right here, which is at the base of the spine, or the caucus bone, that Muhammad ibn Abdullah said that the serpent, basically he wasn't saying it in those words directly, but he said that man would be resurrected from this bone. That's esoteric language, man. You just got to be able to understand and comprehend it. You see the scimitar sacrum? What is it shaped like? So the scimitar sacrum, when forward is this Kundalini, and it's not strange that the scimitar sacrum harnessed this power of this awakening, this energy, because also not only was the leg of an ox above a star in ancient Kemet, but you would often see as well the serpent above the star. And the serpent also is a symbol of the Confesh above the star, or the scimitar. So when that serpent rises, and enlightenment ensues, then you see the headdress of the uniting of lower and upper Kemet, and the serpent coming out of the front of the headdress, where what they would call a third eye would be. You see? Moses raised a serpent up in the wilderness. The staff of Tehudi, Enoch. Tehudi is actually said to be the one who passed the scimitar to his descendants, the Sabi, who became known as the Sabi-un Hunafa, who ended up raising, purifying, preparing Muhammad for his journey. Before he became prophet, when he was known as a Sabi-un Hunafa. You see, this is really the Moorish school of thought, the Sabians. But that's a whole nother mention. We'll get to that later. We talking about the difference between an Egyptian adept, Noble Drew Ali, and N.B.C. Shriners. And we making it plain. This is science here. Only those that are meant to get it will get it. If you don't get it, I ain't mad at you. It ain't meant for you. So, this is actually the first symbol that was placed on a flag in Morocco. The Zulfikar. The scimitar was the first symbol. Before the star was placed in it, one of the first symbols ever placed on the flag. This is it. This is an old Moroccan flag. The scimitar was the symbol. So the star is the symbol now, but the scimitar was the symbol in the beginning. And if you add the alpha to the omega, so to speak, the end form, you see it, you got scimitar over the star again, right? But let us keep moving. We ain't gonna cry over spilled milk. So this picture right here is dealing with showing you what is called the shinty. And you see it here, the shinty is more ancient than the apron. You know, this was my edit I did on it. See it around his waist? Because many of you think that when you see a mason in an apron, that they came up with that demonstration. You know, they say the fig leaf was a form of the aprons in the Garden of Eden. That's a whole nother measure, though. So yeah, this was demonstrated in ancient Kemet. You'll see it all throughout the inscription if you read it. So that came from us too. You know, you didn't see the prophet with one on, you know, but I have a picture where I have my shinty on. Wasn't trying to demonstrate no Western Freemasonry. Our hand clasp of unity. Oh, they sure enough, they first thing that's Masonic. You know, that's what they go to Holland, right? But upon investigation, you look, you see the brothers demonstrating the hand clasp of unity right here. You see the prophet standing with his hand over the heart chakra, letting you know home is what a heart is. You got to purify that heart, right? Well, in ancient Kemet, you see the God man demonstrating the same thing here with his hand in the same position, just like the prophet. So the prophet was demonstrating adept science. You can believe that and notice what he got over his head. That's the same thing, the star. Hold up. We're going to make it plain. I ain't going to half do it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Let me go pull this image up for y'all. I want to expand that image. Make sure we don't make a mistake about it. It's just so much up here. More as I got in here, I have to go through a lot of files to pull this stuff up. And there's years of information trying to put the truth out here for the people, for the public. We didn't ask nothing for it. You know, we didn't put nothing out here to get paid for. We gave you the truth for free. You see? Since we here and I see it, I'll pull it up. See, that's me right there. With the sash on, and then I got my fustanella, or what we call our shinty on. Yes, sir. And I got a pagri on my head. Headdress of the prophet. Definitely wasn't demonstrating Shrineism. Going back to Kemet, Egypt. Let me see here. I think I'm almost there. Let's see here. We got to teach the people, Morris King. Give it to them. Give them the truth. Make it plain. Don't hide it from them. Let me see. I think I might be getting close to it now. Years of archives right here. There we go. That's what I'm looking for right there. I want to get an expanded view of this. I just demonstrated on it, but I want you to see it yourself. So you see the hand of class of unity being demonstrated here. But you see the prophet here standing. Notice the way he is standing. Notice the way the God man here is standing. You see the headdress? One has a star up there on that demonstration. You know, so, I mean, stop playing. That's all we got to say. Stop playing. Everything the prophet had can be took back to Kemet. And I ain't even trying, hard to convince you. I'm just showing you what it is. But it's on you to accept the truth. Even when it come down to dealing with these symbols here, since we here too, by the way. When you look at these symbols, you see our grand seal. And all the Moors demonstrate the circle 7 in some form or way. That's actually smaller than the original picture, but that particular picture is deep because it has to do with the depiction of the creation when the great God Allah called forth the 7 Elohim on the manifest. And then this is an actual mock-up, a CGI version, but you can find it. It's supposed to be what, the city of Atlantis looked like. And if you notice, you see the 4 gateways here. You see, and this would be the center. This would represent the 7. Same thing here. 4 gateways. You see what I'm saying? So the prophet's seal represent a nation, and it represent the ancient ones. This is another expression of it here. You see, this actually became known as the Coptic cross later. Coptic is another form of trying to depict, those who were Egyptian as something else, but yeah, same thing, 4 gateways. This is ancient Egypt right here. Our prophet was an Egyptian adept master, a scientist. Who called him a lie? Now, this is the way we demonstrate also our grand national emblem here. You see it? This is the way we demonstrated the Moorish American government. Notice the crescent and the star on this. Now I'm going to show you something. And this is actually a structure in Morocco, the land of the Moors. You see that crescent? And you see that star right there? There's some antiquity on that one right there, though. Yes, sir. And there you go right there in the ancient Comedian, hieroglyphics again. So all of this goes back to Kemet. So when you talk about Islamism and that old time religion, it's an ancient way of life. Just the signs and symbols, like I said, they are for conscious mind. But if you don't know no better, then you won't do any better. So that brings us back to the question again. Was Prophet Noble Drew Ali an Egyptian adept, or was he an Egyptian shriner? And I would say all the evidence that I just produced, and I could produce a lot more, but that's sufficient. You should know better. And when you know better, you can do better. If you in denial of that right there, then you in denial of being yourself. So Moors, I ask you, humbly, accept your own, be yourself. Study that which is yours. Accept that which belongs to you. Stop trying to be somebody else. You see what I'm saying? This is very key. So if the prophet put all this out here and he made it plain, I mean, goodness gracious. And I see the Moors been in here, honest to the Moors that been sitting here giving their drawing, Brother Marcus, pardon self, Bay, and Sister Malika Shamsuddin Bay. And there's other people watching too. They just haven't come forth to chime in, and I ain't really concerned with that. I'm just really concerned with putting the truth out here and making it plain. So if you say that you confused after this right here again, I just don't know what to tell you. I just made it plain to you. I put the receipts out there, and it go way deeper than this here. I'm just really scratching over the surface. You know, I'd be teaching, man, for a whole week if I was really going into the essence of this demonstration. So we're going to set this out here for social media, you know, so they can get a drawing off of this. And so now that we have showed you what this is, now we're going to bring you back home. See, this is the website that I established years ago. It's been on the manifest about a decade now, 10 years now. You know, we've upgraded, made a few improvements here and there, but most of it's still the same. And if you notice here, you see our symbol on the Mathino's Arcanic Archives of Tehuti. And you see the Mariotic script here of the ancient Kushites. And the translation of this the transliteration of it actually has to do with one going into understanding if you would rather be one than see one, basically. Swift angel. So you see the upright crescent here. You see the seed here that unfolded as God unfolds. That's Heru. This is the same, you know, seed that you see in the recent Adept jewel of the Hierophants, you know, which one will be actually a few will be arriving to Act 1, and our grand body, tomorrow they should receive it. You know, the ones that you've seen. You know, and also the other Moors will end up receiving these demonstrations as well, based upon unfoldment. They ain't got to jump through no hoops. They ain't got to go through, you know, no crazy, you know, symbolic demonstration, but it's simply by being who you are. You know, you going through the degrees and don't even know it. So I keep telling the Moors, pay attention, because you're being tested. You know, all of this is going to determine, you know, your unfoldment. And if you don't unfold at a particular time, we ain't casting one down. We just know where we need to work with one at along the way. You know, because Allah is love. So when you see these wings here, symbolic to the sun rising with healing in his wings, you see the sun symbolic here within the cradle, so to speak, of the crescent. You see the unity of Allah and man, the unity of the God woman and the God man. Because if you go into the Moorish Holy Quran, we are told that He, Allah, planted the seed in the soil of the soul. But we are also told about the mother of virtues. Both of them refer to the higher self. You see what I'm saying? So that's what this basically represents, going into the higher self. You see AKO, Ancient Comedian Order. Comedian Hierophant Adept, or Comedian Adept Hierophant. That's actually my Facebook name, but you know, this basically unfolds exactly, you know, what you become by unfolding through these degrees. Safek Pekaru, Sephinet Paneth. That's a title that Yusuf or Joseph was given by the Pharaoh in Egypt. That's the 7th Adept degree. That's the degree that's referred to as Propheta. This is why we say the prophet, when he unfolded through that degree, he became who he was for all the world to see. So you see, our symbol is not the symbol of the Shriners. Our symbol is the symbol of the Moors. And this is a representation of our unfoldment through the 7 Adept degrees. What's the name of our school of initiation? The ancient Egyptian Moorish rite of the mystic crypts of Misraim, or simply the ancient Egyptian rite of the mystic crypts of Misraim. Not to be confused with any of the organizations that are out there. You see, this comes straight out of the Moorish Holy Quran. The mystic crypts of Misraim. You see, the word rites, the cleansing rites, comes out of the Moorish Holy Quran. Moorish comes from the Moorish Holy Egyptian, ancient. All of that right there is ours. Ain't got nothing to do with the European. We just made it plain and brought it back to you in a clean and pure way so that you can unfold. These are the prophet symbols. You see, if you notice, really in all actuality, that's the prophet and the government on the soul plane. You see the flag up there flying? He established the Moorish American government from the soul plane, Moors. You see that? You see Allah in the east, you see Allah in the west. So whithersoever you turn, there's the presence of Allah, right? You see the lion laying down with the lamb. Really, in all actuality, we think that's the European government letting us have some land, and, you know, that's all good to see it that way. But really, the lion laying down with the lamb had to do with us learning how to get along with each other as a people. It has to do with the Moors who have a lion-like nature, getting along with their brothers and sisters who truly have love for their people in their heart. You see what I'm saying? This is the lion laying down with the lamb on a grander degree. It has to do with us getting along with each other, keeping the love out front. I want to emphasize that. You see? You see the headdress, figure 1. You see the pyramids. Why did the prophet put that in his constitution and on his convention documents? He letting you know where he got his lessons from. The Sphinx and everything on there, even the Bactrian camel. That's a whole nother demonstration right there. Belief, faith, and fruition. That's what them humps really represent. Moving from belief, faith, into fruition. Faith, hope, and love. All up there in the head, right? Yes, sir. The chemistry of mortal life, the ministry of death, the mystery of deific life. Yes, sir. We can go on and on with it. Swift angels. That's what we do. We demonstrate and we unfold. And it's real over here. It ain't no game. We ain't perpetrating the fraud. We ain't trying to be nothing else. We being what we are. All this right here represent. This is our tree of life. You see? And I got one more measure here. I got one more measure here. And we're going to close it out. Okay. This is actually post recently. I want to show you something here. And I produced the prophet sash. You know, I don't know nothing about this type of stuff, but I did this myself. You know, because we got to imitate our prophet. If you notice, you see the 7 represent, this is seed that's actually planted right here. And unfoldment growing in regards to dealing with all of this glory, so to speak, you know, in the branches that extend from here, right? But this is what I really want to get at right here, this portion. If you look up here, let me see. Okay, there we go. I want to get that out of the way. Okay, there we go. So you see up here, we'll start from the bottom. You got DM, SA, MA, and KA. In other words, DM, Sa, Ma, and Ka. You know, what's the representation? Divine Minister, Swift Angel, Moorish Adept, Moorish American, Comedian Adept. Right? Now, the real science come in regards to dealing with the Sa, Ma, and the Ka. After becoming a divine minister, you unfold as a swift angel, but Sa, if you don't know it, comedically actually represents a symbol of protection or a symbol of power. That's what Sa represents. That's what the sash is symbol. This is a line of divinity here now. Now, Ma is going into Ma'at, or the Ma'atic balance. So you have protection through the Ma'atic balance, and this Ka actually represents the holy breath. You see? Comedian Adept. When you become Comedian Adept, You become holy breath. See, these are the degrees. That's how you move from the chemistry of mortal life, you see, into the ministry of death and the mystery of deific life. That's the unfoldment, Moorish kin. But you was planted, remember, first as a what? A seed, and allowed to unfold. So that being said, if it was meant for you to get a drawing, then get a drawing. You know, if it wasn't meant for you, then, you know, all is well to your family. We don't mean no offense to you, you know, but in due time, we hope you get the measure. So that being said, I say gratitude to all my Moorish kin once again, and say peace, love, and law to you. Know yourself and be the truth that you are. Shimo Tepu, Unqua Jetsanel, that means life, health, and prosperity be upon you all in the Comedian tongue. Peace.